Hey, thanks for joining me. Welcome to class. And this whole practice, roughly an hour, give or take, is going to be focused, devoted to improving our flexibility. Flexibility is a common problem. Being inflexible, rather, is a really common problem for athletes, especially if you engage in a lot of high impact activities, mainly running. You know, other things could do it too, but anytime you have that pounding of the joints, that high impact activity, tennis, things like that, what happens is when the foot strikes the ground, you kind of develop these little micro tears in the muscle fiber, especially the hamstrings and quads. And then they repair themselves, especially mostly through ingesting, eating some protein, lean protein. The muscle repairs, but as it does that, then it becomes like a bigger, stronger muscle, which becomes less flexible. So you kind of have this constant need to stretch along with doing your high impact activities. The areas, again, that are probably for most of us, we have problems with flexibility. Hamstrings are a big one. Very, very common, not just in runners. I see this in a lot of my yoga students as well who only do yoga or low impact activities. Hips, back, low back in particular, spine. Those are the most common areas, and those are the ones we're going to work on today to try to gradually, and that's the other thing I want to mention, increasing flexibility, getting more flexible does not happen overnight. All right, you're not going to suddenly, after doing this class, 5, 6, 10 times, going to become more flexible. It's something you've got to really work into. Be super patient and not overdo it. Okay, you try to really say, okay, I want to, lean forward a little more. I want to straighten my leg. That's when you can tend to pull muscles or injure yourself. So you have to be really patient and let the flexibility kind of happen. But if you do several, maybe you can take away from this class like 3 or 4 things. Start small, that you like and that you know will work for you, and you work on those. And maybe you try to incorporate them into your daily fitness routine several times a week. And over a period of time, you will notice a difference. You will become more flexible, but you have to let the body open up and expand and stretch on its own pace without straining it and without injuring it. So a couple of props that would be really helpful today, blanket or firm cushion, mine's back by my mat, but if you have that later on, it'll become helpful. Block, of course, a yoga block, always helpful. And this is a prop I rarely use in these classes, but this is a yoga strap, which is basically a long cloth belt with a loop at the end. And most of you aren't going to have this. So some good substitutions for this is just a cloth belt. If like you have a pair of pants or a skirt or some article of clothing that came with a cloth belt. Downside with that is most times it's not quite long enough. It's good, but not as long. What works really well is if you have a bathrobe and a detachable belt. Those are usually longer. You want something soft, so don't use a leather belt. Don't use a leather belt. You want to have something soft. Don't use a bungee cord or a piece of rope. A long scarf would also help. Something soft, but also with a little bit of firmness to it. And you can do all of the poses. When I say if you have a strap, use a strap or a belt, you would obviously still be able to do all those poses without the strap, but you may want to consider, especially if you're interested in working further with those poses for flexibility, to get a strap. And you can get a yoga strap on Amazon or sporting goods store. All right, let's begin. Let's go back to my mat now, and we're going to begin this class reclining, couple poses reclining. Again, we need to start this flexibility flow really slow, really easy, being really patient with our muscles and joints so we don't do more damage unintentionally. Lay on the back and hug the right knee in. So you keep the left knee bent for now. And we're just going to start really easy, circling that right knee around, hip around one direction, small circles. So starting to introduce a little flexibility and mobility into the outer hips, which are also very stiff for most people. Take those little knee hip circles in the other direction from where you started. And now you're going to cross the right ankle outside the left knee. You're going to flex the foot and you're going to start to bring that knee and shin a little more parallel in front of you. So coming into figure four position. Sometimes we call this reclined pigeon pose. And this is just a nice, easy introductory hip opener. So we flex the foot to protect the knee. So the knee, this also gets a little bit into the knee, stretches the knee, but it's mostly intended for the outer hip. So of course, we're also stretching, if you observe, the inner thigh. Inner thigh gets stretched here as well. One more breath. All right, take that right foot back down to the mat, hug the left knee in, holding on top of the shin. And then we're just going to start just really small little circles, really easy. So again, just really easing in to these flexibility exercises a little at a time. Give the body time to warm up and open. Especially take the circles the other way now, especially if you're doing this first thing in the morning or early in the day. Early in the day is when typically we're less flexible because we've been asleep all night, our joints, muscles have stiffened up, and it takes most of us a while to unwind, just walking around, loosening up. And then take this figure four shape. Left ankle outside right knee, flex the left foot. Maybe take the left hand to the left knee and just very gently ease it away. So I always, again, want to ease into these stretches a little at a time. You don't want to push. Okay, just coaxing the muscles. And sometimes when you hold stretches a little longer, the muscles and joints start to loosen and soften. And then you can go just a little bit deeper. But you need to be patient and go easy. One more breath. All right, uncross the ankle. Now, if you do have a strap or belt or something similar, or you decide again at some point to acquire one, you could use it now. So you're going to hug the right knee back into the chest, and then you're going to loop your strap around the ball of the right foot. You're going to hold on to the strap, one end in each hand, and you're going to start to straighten the leg into a really easy hamstring stretch. So go into this super easy first stretch for the hamstrings. And again, especially if you're doing this earlier in the day, those hamstrings are going to be tight and cold. So you don't want to stretch it too much. The left knee can stay bent for now, or you can straighten it. And if you're not using a strap, then you just interlace the hands and hold on behind the thigh, or walk the hands up a little higher. Hold on maybe behind the calf or the ankle. Either way, you're just going to rock that leg close to you and then away. So using the strap just kind of helps you, maybe get a little deeper into the stretch without going too deep. One more breath. All right, now, if you're using a strap, take both ends in the right hand. Do slide the left leg to straighten out. You're going to press the left hand into the left thigh to try to ground that leg to the ground. Keep the spine flat, the shoulder blades grounded. You're going to start to open that right leg off to the right. All right, flex the foot and don't roll over into a twist. So again, you want to keep the chest and belly facing up to the sky. Just opening up a little more now through the outer hip, taking the stretch out of the hamstring a bit into the outer hip, inner thigh here. One more breath. All right, now take the leg up. If you're holding the strap, both ends go into the left hand. Otherwise, you hold on to the outer edge of the right leg, the right ankle with the left hand. And then we're going to roll over as far over to the left as you can. Maybe you can bring that right foot to the mat, round the right shoulder blade as best you can, and then turn the torso to the right. So this really gets a nice stretch in the outer hip and the outer thigh. One more breath, come back to center. This time, lift the head and shoulders. So either holding on to the strap, you could use the strap, pull. When I use this word pull, I don't mean like really give it a hard yank. It's like a gentle tug. Otherwise, again, you're just holding on behind the leg. Lift the head and shoulders, forehead towards the knee. One more breath. All right, release down. If you're using that strap or belt, let it go. And let's bend both knees to start. So we'll start this first section with both knees bent. And then you're going to hug the left knee in. And if you're using the strap, wrap it around the ball of the foot. Hold one end in each hand and take your time. Begin to straighten the leg up for this hamstring stretch, the first part of this. Otherwise, again, you're holding on behind the thigh or behind a little higher up the leg. And it's fine to have this knee really bent. If your hamstrings are super tight, you feel resistance here, then you need to bend the knee a lot more. Don't feel that the first time or first 10 times you try this, you're going to get that leg super straight. If you can get it really straight or mostly straight, then the caution there is not to hyperextend or lock out the knee. You need to have a little micro bend in the knee. All right, one more breath here. Just kind of rocking it again, forward and back, coaxing that big tight muscle open. All right, now slide the right leg to straight if you haven't already. If you're using the strap, both ends go to the left hand. Otherwise, you hold on to the inner edge of the left foot or the ankle with the left hand, and you start to open that leg off to the side. Keep the shoulder blades grounded so the right hip likes to hike up here. Your job, your work is to keep it grounded and just let that leg open and feel now how that stretches the inner thigh, inner part of the leg, inner knee. One more breath, take the leg up. If the strap, if you're using that, both ends go in the right hand. Otherwise, right hand holds outer edge of left foot or outer ankle. And then you bring it over towards the right. Maybe the whole foot comes, or maybe it's kind of somewhere up in the air. Try to ground the left shoulder blade and then turn the chest a little bit to the left. Just a couple of breaths here. It's a bigger stretch. And you don't have to go all the way over. All right, if it feels better to keep the leg like part way up, like just 50%, you can do that too. Take another breath here. And then come onto the back one more time, either holding the strap or behind the leg. This time we're going to lift the head and shoulders. Maybe bring that leg in a bit closer without straining, forehead to knee for another breath. And then let it go. If you're using a strap, take it away, place it aside. We may have need of it later. And then you're going to bring yourself all the way up and find your way to all fours, hands and knees from here. Come into tabletop position. So warming up the joints, getting flexibility in the joints is important, the hamstrings, quads, outer hips, but the back is also one area we really want to work on keeping mobile and flexible because the back can very easily stiffen up and atrophy, and that can lead to all kinds of other problems. So let's take tabletop, hand shoulder distance, a little bend in the elbows. I don't want to lock those out either. And you're going to round the spine, tuck the chin, and find a cat pose. And then you're going to go the other way, open the heart, kind of stick the butt out and find a cow pose. And we're going to move through these slowly a few rounds. So this is a pose, this little sequence, cat-cow sequence I do in almost every class I teach, whether virtually or in person, because it's a pretty basic pose. Most people can do it without any problem at all. And it's just a really nice, easy way, gentle way to open up the spine, the whole spine, the neck, the cervical spine, the upper back, the thoracic, the lower back, lumbar, and the very tip of the tailbone, the sacrum. All those areas can get stiff or sore at any point in time. So again, really important just to keep that flow, that mobility going so the back doesn't get all stiff and tight. Let's find just one more of those. Round in, tuck in, belly to spine, arch, and then open up, broaden across the chest. All right, from here, tuck the toes, lift the heels. You're going to walk the hands out in front of you and come onto the fingertips. You're going to open the chest and look past the hands. And then you're going to start to drop the forehead down towards the mat to keep the hips high. You can flatten the palms now or stay on the fingertips. This is kneeling dog pose. And what we want to try to do here is stretch out the shoulders and the upper back and lift the hips up and drop the chest down. So it's a hard opening position, but it's also this nice big stretch for the shoulders and upper back. One more breath. All right, now you're going to flatten the feet And you're going to keep the arms overhead, but now you're going to start to stretch the hips back towards the heels. Maybe the forehead comes all the way to the mat. Now, this is child's pose. So we use child's pose to rest, to take a break. If you get tired, out of breath, especially if it's a more intense practice with a lot of flowing poses. Well, this can also be a really nice stretch and opening to introduce flexibility, again, in the upper back and shoulders, but also in the lower back and in the hips. So keep stretching the sit bones back towards the heels to increase the stretch in the lower body, and keep reaching, crawling the fingers forward to increase the stretch gradually in the upper body. We're here one more breath in child's pose. And then on your inhale, you're going to lift up. You're going to walk the hands in and come all the way up onto the shins. And then you're going to kind of turn, walk on the shins, come into the center of your mat. You're going to step the left foot to the mat. You're going to bend the knee and you're going to spin the knee and foot so it's facing the back of the mat. So the knee is right over the ankle. And then you're going to come back forward. You're going to sweep the left forearm inside that left inner thigh. You're going to take the right arm over the ear and come into a side bend. So this is a gate pose variation. Most often it's done, this leg would be straight, but we want to get a little more stretch going in the inner thigh and in the psoas muscle, the deepest part of the hip flexor. Keep pressing the left forearm. Keep pressing again into the inner thigh. So you kind of press it back. At the same time, you want to engage that left glute and press it forward, which that's going to wake up that outer hip. Take one more breath here. All right, come up. Let's stay on the side. We're going to do this just a little different. Bring the right hand to the right hip, left hand to left thigh. And then you're going to sink forward a little more. So you're going to kind of guide that left knee past the left toes. So that's going to deepen the stretch in that psoas. And then you're going to come back up, tall spine. 2 more times. Guide the knee forward, sink in a little deeper. Feel that stretch and flexibility, opening inner thigh and into the groin. Psoas up, and then 1 more time, bend in, sink in, and then come up and come onto the left shin, left side, and then take the right foot to the mat. So first let's set this up. Take a moment. So the knee again is right over the toes, and they're both facing now the front of the mat. Start with sweeping right forearm inside, pressing it against the inner thigh. Take the left arm over the ear and start with a side bend. So again, that kind of give and take, that resistance. With the right forearm, you press the inner thigh back, and at the same time, you kind of squeeze the right glute and press it forward here. 1 more breath this way. Lift the spine, pop the left hand to the left hip, now right hand to that right thigh, and you're going to sink a little deeper into that stretch, and then come back up. And 2 more times. Use the right hand on the thigh to kind of guide the knee forward past the toes. And then you lift back up, and then 1 more time, sink in, lift up, come onto both shins, and then turn on the shins once again to face the front of your mat. Both hands down, step the feet back until you're in a high plank. So you're on the balls of the feet, lift the heels, hold here, and then take the hips up and walk the feet in, and we're in downward facing dog. So there are not a whole lot of downward dogs in this particular class. Some, but not as many as we do in some classes, especially definitely not in a basic overall yoga flow class. But here, let's focus on stretching out the calves and Achilles tendon. So you're going to bend the right knee deeply, and you're going to stretch, focus for 2 or 3 breaths, stretching that left heel down towards the mat. Even if it doesn't touch, and most people can't get their heels to the mat, no problem there, no worries. You can still get a really nice, good stretch in that left back of that lower left leg. And then switch. Bend the left knee deeply, straighten the right, try to stretch the right heel down towards the ground, and feel that right calf muscle, Achilles tendon, those get real tight too. Got to pay attention to those, give them a little tension. And then straighten both legs, but always feel free in down dog to keep the knees a little or a lot bent. Don't want to lock the knees out at any point in any pose. Let's take the right leg to the sky into 3-leg down dog. And then you're going to step it forward. You're going to drop onto the left knee, walk the hands in, and let's start this in a low lunge pose. So spine is tall, arms reach straight up to the sky by the ears, gaze forward. Lengthening up through sides of waist and ribs and lifting up out of the low back. One more breath. All right, now you're going to lean forward. You're going to bring both hands to the mat. You could use, if you have 2 yoga blocks, those come in handy here for this next pose. You're going to sink the hips back, and at the same time, you're going to straighten the right leg and maybe wiggle the heel forward a little more. And we're coming into a half splits pose, which is another big stretch for the hamstrings. So there'll be a lot of focus in this class on the hamstrings, because that tends to be the area where most of us are tighter, where we have less flexibility. So gaze forward. You can either like kind of keep lifted a little bit. So you would be like, say, looking past the right big toe, past the top of your mat. Or you can fold over the leg. That gets maybe just a bit more intense into that hamstring stretch. Whatever you're choosing here, make sure, again, you're not like locking that knee out, right? No hyperextension. And you want to also, in this pose, try to keep both hip points facing forwards. You're not taking this into like a twist side to side. Let's take her one more breath. And then look forward, rebend the right knee, bring the foot to the mat, hands down. You're going to step back to plank and lift the hips up back to downward facing dog pose. Take the left leg to the sky into 3-leg dog, and then step it forward. Drop under the right knee, walk the hands in. First, we start just for 2 or 3 breaths in this low lunge. So just reaching up, lengthening up, tall spine. Take one more breath here. And then again, lean forward, hands to the mat or blocks. Pull the hips back, straighten the left leg, maybe wiggle the heel forward. So you really need to press the heel into the mat, flex the toes, really flex the toes back. That again is going to protect our knee. We're all about protecting the knee in this classes. Again, either maybe it feels better to kind of lift forward, look forward, open across the chest. Maybe it feels better for a couple breaths to fold over the leg. Again, don't let the hips move. Don't lock out the knee, really important. So bend the knee more. If you feel super tight in that hamstring, bend the knee more. One more breath. Lift the chest, shift forward, left foot comes back to the mat, hands down, step to high plank, and take the hips up to downward facing dog. Just a breath here, breathing in and out through the nose, even if we're not really flowing in this particular class, but you still want to keep that nice breath flow going, breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. And then let's bend the knees and step walk to the top of the mat. Bring the hands to the hips, and you're going to bring yourself all the way up to stand. So you're standing tall, top of the mat. Have the feet about hips distance and have a little soft bend in the knees, just a little soft bend. You're going to bring the hands to the low back. Press the heels of the palms into the low back. And before we go any deeper, stand up tall, but begin to squeeze the shoulder blades together. So we're going to take this into a really gentle standing back bend to keep that mobility, flexibility in the spine. Keep looking forward. You're going to start to open the chest to the sky as you do. Lean back a little more if you can, or stop anytime it feels like enough. If your neck feels okay, you can look up towards the ceiling. If your neck feels fairly loose and fairly comfortable, you can begin to let the head fall back, but really watch this. Really pay attention to the neck. It's a super easy area to tweak, pull a muscle, pinch a nerve, etc. One more breath. You're slowly going to rise up, tall spine. You're going to reach both arms overhead. You're going to circle the left wrist with the right fingers. And now we're going to take a side bend over to the right. So you want to bump that left hip out to the side and see if you can bend a little deeper. So this again, side body stretch. Really important. It's part of the spine. One of the parts of the spine, movements of the spine, the side stretches. As you inhale, lift tall, circle the right wrist with the left fingers and slowly start to bend over to the left. And as you do, bump the right hip off to the side. Ground firmly, especially through the outer edges of both feet. As you inhale, rise. Now, just for a couple breaths, join the palms overhead and look up towards the sky. Try to stretch the fingertips up a little higher here. So working on that nice good posture, lengthening up from the low back. One more breath, and from here, you're going to dive all the way back down to the ground, hands down. Step back to plank pose. And now you're going to lower yourself all the way down to the mat. Bring the forehead to the mat, chest down, legs are long. Press the tops of the feet into the mat and try to walk the inner knees to touch. Step the hands back so they're in line with the chest. The elbows are bent, and ideally you're kind of hugging the outer ribs with the forearms. From here, you're going to lift the head and shoulders into cobra pose. Nice little gentle back bend. Squeeze the glutes as well. Give them a little squeeze. One more breath. Slowly lower the forehead down. Take a breath or two there. We're going to do that one more time. So when you come up into cobra, it's not about how high you lift the chest. It's about finding breadth across the upper back and the chest. All right, one more time. Lift up. Maybe a little higher if you feel ready, but if you're meeting resistance on the low back, this again is a fairly gentle back bend. We're not going to do any real intense ones in this class. One more breath, lower the forehead down. Now tuck the toes. Push yourself, lift yourself back up to high plank pose and take the hips back up. Step the feet in, back to downward facing dog. We're going to take the right leg back to the sky to three-leg dog. Step it forward, this time into a runner's lunge pose. So the hands remain down. Blocks, again, are really good help for this pose if you're struggling to reach the mat. The back toes are tucked and the heel is lifted, and we're really feeling the power and the lift in that back leg, the shin, the calf, the front and back of the knee, the quad, and the hamstring. They're all working here. Keep the left hand on the mat and take the right arm to the sky into an easy twist. And what you want to watch in this twist, first pay attention to the neck. If the neck's tight, maybe you don't look up at the hand, maybe look out to the side. And you also want to watch the position of that right hip. It likes to pop out to the side, sway to the side. Keep it in the center line. One more breath. All right, now you're going to turn back to runner's lunge. Step the back foot in one or two bumps, but keep the heel lifted. Again, blocks come in really handy here if the ground seems a little far. You're going to start to straighten the right leg, but don't lock the knee out. And then you're going to fold over that leg without letting the hips move side to side. This is pyramid pose, a variation. Normally, the back foot is grounded too, but I want to open up a little more space in this class in the hamstrings and low back. So we're keeping the back heel lifted just to give us a little more movement here. This is another big stretch for the hamstring, so I encourage you to bend the knee if the hammies are tight. And again, if you're really straining to reach the ground, having a block under each hand, any height, would be extremely beneficial. One more breath. All right, now look forward, rebend the right knee, step the left foot back one or two bumps to runner's lunge. You're going to step the right foot to plank, and you're going to lower all the way down to the mat. This time, you're going to come onto elbows, forearms, and you're going to lift the chest into Sphinx pose. So keep the chin a little lower than the forehead, so you're not tucking the chin into the chest. At the same time, you're not thrusting the chin forward, which could end up doing some harm to the neck. So you want to keep it in that nice neutral spot. Press down through elbows, forearms. Try to isometrically pull the elbows back towards the chest, which is going to help you lift up out of the low back and find a little more breadth and opening in the chest. One more breath. All right, lower the forehead down. Step the hands back in by the chest, tuck the toes, push up to plank. Take the hips up again to downward facing dog. Let's take a breath here before side two. Take a big breath in and a deep breath out. And then let's take the left leg to the sky to three-leg dog. As you exhale, take a big step forward into runner's lunge. So again, pausing here before we go deeper. That back leg, that right leg is so strong here, so engaged, everything working together as a unit. And then keep the right hand on the mat or a block. Spin the left arm to the sky into that twist. Take one more breath here. And then turn forward, both hands down. Again, those blocks, super good to have here. Bump the right foot in, probably 2 bumps, but you're going to keep the heel lifted. But you're going to start to straighten the left leg and fold right over the shin. So watch again, that left hip really likes to bump out to the side here. Keep it in the center. So what you want to try to do here, draw the left hip back, but the right side of the pubic bone forward. Don't lock out that left knee. Bend it more if you need. One more breath. All right, lift the chest, look forward. You're going to rebend the left knee. Step the right foot back, 1 or 2 bumps to runner's lunge. Step the left foot to meet the right and plank. And once again, we're going to drop all the way down. So as you lower, you can come onto all fours and then come down. And we're going to come back to Sphinx pose for a couple breaths. Focusing again, broadening across the chest, especially lifting up from the low back. So it's really easy here to slouch in this pose, to kind of collapse the chest. You want to do the opposite. You want to lift the chest and lift up at the same time from the low back. One more breath. Lower the forehead all the way down now. Step the hands back in by the ribs. Tuck the toes. Lift a high plank. Hips rise up. Back to downward facing dog. Let's take the right leg to the sky to 3-leg dog. This time you're going to step it through. You're going to ground the back foot and you're going to come up into warrior 2 pose. So right knee bent, right over the toes like we did in that gate pose earlier. Back leg is straight, but the toes are slightly turned in. And you really want to focus here on grounding through that back foot. That's going to activate that left leg. So all the pressure here isn't on that right quad and knee. Arms to a T, spine tall, gaze out over the right fingers. So arms are ideally at about shoulder height, mostly straight, but again, it's fine to have a little soft bend in the elbows. Important here, tall spine. Start to lift through the crown of the head, and again, not collapsing into that low back here. Turn the right palm to the sky, and you're going to sweep it up and over the ear and find a side bend. This is reverse warrior pose. Another nice side body stretch for the sides of the waist and the ribs and the oblique muscles, part of the core. Take one more breath here and reverse, and then come back up to warrior 2. You're going to lean forward slightly. You're going to prop the right forearm on the right thigh. You're going to sweep the left arm up and over the ear to diagonal, and then you're going to start to turn the right side of the ribs a little to the left, maybe looking under that left arm. This is extended side angle pose. And we're taking one more breath here. And then we're going to come all the way back up to warrior 2. From here, you're going to circle the hands to the mat. You're going to step back to plank. And once again, you're going to lower all the way down to the mat. Forehead down, legs long. Arms sweep back by the outer hip. So the palms kind of turn and face in by the outer thighs. Lift the head and shoulders. And then if you want, add the legs or keep the legs down. So this is locust pose. It's another back bend on the belly, and it's a slightly bigger, deeper back bend than the cobra and sphinx poses we already did. One more breath, lower everything down. Hands come in by the chest, tuck the toes, push up to plank. Let the hips come back up, walk the feet in a bit if you need. Back to downward facing dog. We're going to take a breath or 2 here before the left side. Big breath in, deep breath out. You need to rest anytime. You can return to that child's pose or kneeling dog we did in the first part of the class. Otherwise, when you're ready, take the left leg to the sky to 3-leg dog. And then as you exhale, big step through, ground the back foot and bring yourself up into warrior 2. Let's take a couple, 2 or 3 breaths here, 4 breaths in warrior 2. Setting this up, aligning it. Left knee, again, right over the ankle. Right leg is straight. You're really pressing, grounding through the whole sole of the right foot. Paying attention to the outer edge, ground that pinky edge a little more and feel how that wakes up, engages that right leg. So the weight is more evenly distributed between the bent knee and the straight leg. Tall spine. Take the left palm to the sky, and you're going to sweep that arm up and over the ear and enter this side bend, this reverse warrior pose, lengthening through that left side from the outer hip all the way out through the fingers. Breathing in between each individual rib, intercostal muscles. That area can get tight. We ignore it sometimes. So really important to stretch it out and lengthen. As you inhale, come back to warrior two and then reach out for the left arm. You're going to prop that forearm on the thigh and you're going to sweep the right arm over the ear to diagonal and turn left side of the ribs to the right. Extended side angle pose. Take one more breath. You're going to come back up to warrior two. Circle the hands to the mat from here. Step back again to plank. And one more time, bring yourself all the way down to the mat. We're going to take a little different variation of locust. This time it's going to get a little more into the shoulders and upper back. Forehead down, chest down, belly down. Legs long, walk the inner knees to touch. Cross the top of the feet into the mat. This time you're going to bring the hands behind the back. Interlace the fingers. Have the hands rest on the sit bones to begin with, little bend in the elbows. You're going to lift the head and shoulders back into locust. Add the legs. You can either keep the hands resting on the butt or you can start to float them off, and that's going to straighten the elbows. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Point the toes. See if you can lift the chest another half inch. See if you can lift maybe the kneecaps up off the mat an inch. One more breath. Lower all the way down. Release the interlace of the fingers. Turn one cheek to the mat, bend the knees, flex the feet, and you're going to let the feet wobble a little side to side to release the low back. So important to stretch the low back, keep it mobile. It's also important to take care of the low back. This is a good way, if your back is tight or sore, to give it a little bit of relief, just letting the feet drift side to side like this, real easy. One more breath. All right, from here, push yourself up, but then from here, right away, you can lay on your back. So we're going to do a bit of work, just a bit on the core, keeping the core strong. Doesn't really do a lot for flexibility, but the core, the trunk, the center of the body, the abdominals, the inner thighs, the glutes, the outer hips, it just provides a good, strong, steady base for the rest of the body so that the other muscles don't get overworked or tired. Having a strong core can help alleviate low back pain. And it's just a good thing to do, part of your daily, weekly, regular fitness routine, to add in a little bit of core work as often as you can. This will be a fairly simple one. We're going to start first by grounding the shoulder blades so the arms can be straight or elbows bent. You're going to lift both legs up to tabletop position and try to press the inner knees, inner ankles together here. You're going to let the knees drift to the right and turn the torso to the left. Come back up to center. Knees go left. Twist upper body right. So we're going to go back and forth with these windshield wiper abs for a few rounds, side to side, kind of going a little quicker. And then we're going to hold in a couple more rounds. So don't expect here, we're just kind of drifting side to side, that bottom leg is going to come to the mat. It's going to probably be hovering up in the air for most of us. Let's just do this one more time like this, to the right, to center, to the left. I come up. Now, the next time you come to the right, you're going to hold there. Maybe you can go a little deeper, drop maybe the right foot, maybe the whole knee to the mat. Turn the torso to the left and hold our breath. And then come back up. The knees separate, try to bring them back together. Drop the knees to the left as far as you can go. Turn the torso to the right. Keep that right shoulder grounded. One more breath. All right, come to center. Now we're going to add on another bit. You're going to twist over to your right, turn to the left. You can keep both knees bent, or maybe you straighten just the left leg and maybe try to work the toes up towards the fingers of the right hand. One more breath. Rebend the knee. Come back to center. Twist to the left, turn to the right. Again, option to keep both knees bent. Maybe straighten just the right leg. Maybe stretch the toes towards the left fingers. One more breath. Rebend the knee. Come back to center. One more part, one more add-on. First twist to the right. Drop the knees to the right. Turn the chest to the left. Option to keep both knees bent. Straighten just the left leg. Maybe this round you straighten both legs. Both legs straight, both toes reaching towards that right hand. One more breath. Come back to center. Rebend the knees. Last part. Twist to the left. Turn to the right. You can keep both knees bent. Straighten just the top leg, or maybe both legs straighten and you're trying to reach the toes towards the fingers. One more breath. Come back to center. Bend both knees. Wrap the arms around the shins. Let's release that. Recover from that. Rock a little right and left. Maybe circle around on the back. Imprint the low back into the mat. And then from here, roll yourself up. Step back to plank pose. Find your way back to high plank. Let's hold there a moment. So sometimes after doing core work, as well as after back bends, we've done both. It's nice to get into this more neutral position, which is plank pose, to kind of just neutralize, reset the spine. And then take the hips up to downward dog. Take a breath there. From here, you're going to walk the hands to the feet at the back of the mat. You can have your blocks nearby for this. Maybe take the feet a little bit wider than hips distance. If you're able, you're going to take what we call peace sign fingers, which is the index finger, thumb, and middle finger. And you're going to wrap it around the big toes of each hand. All right, so make a little ring, say, around the toes. And if you can't do this, you could just have your hands on blocks or keep the hands on the shins or the hips. You're going to gaze forward to the front of the mat first, so it'll create more space in the chest and upper back. And then we fold straight down the legs. And as you do this, you're going to bend the elbows out to the side. So this is a nice standing forward fold. Really good for hamstring flexibility. Of course, bend the knees if you feel super tight. Also for the low back. And also adding in this little element of bending the elbows out to the side, that's going to get into that upper back, into the rhomboid muscles, and create a little more openness and stretch there. 2 more breaths. Take 1 more. And then from here, lift the chest, release that big toe grip. Stay at the back of the mat. Begin to walk the feet wider now. Maybe as wide as the mat, maybe even a little wider. You're going to turn the toes out, and you're going to start to bend the knees and sink down into a nice deep squat. All right, so this is really tight because if your hips are super tight, your quads, your knees, this is going to be very difficult. So what you do here is get a couple blocks under you, stack them, and sit on the blocks, and you work into this because this is undeniably a really big hip opener here. Not for everyone, and you have to really be patient and work into this. Take 1 more breath, and then bring the hands down. Slowly straighten the legs. Take your time. You're in a real deep squat. Turn the feet till the toes face forward. Feet are about hips distance. And then just for a breath, fold right back down without holding the toes. Hands can be on the mat or blocks. Just let everything kind of reset after that really big deep squat. 1 more breath. All right. Bring the hands to the hips. And you're going to rise all the way up to stand. Be near a wall, or maybe even just like a chair or a desk someplace you can balance. We're going to stand on the left foot, and you're going to bend the right knee and catch the foot and come into a classic quad stretch here. So the left hand on the wall or that table or chair for balance if you need. Start with the spine tall. Begin to ease the right heel in towards the butt. have a little soft bend in the left knee, but try to have the inner knees touch. So you don't want that right foot, for example, like sickling out to the side, twerking out to the side. You want to keep it pretty close in. All right, you can stay here. This is enough. Classic, good quad stretch to introduce flexibility in the quads, or you can take it a little deeper. And what you do there is start to kick the foot back, open the chest forward, maybe reach that left hand out in front of you. So this is dancer pose. And it's just a bigger, deeper quad stretch, slightly deeper variation of how we started. One more breath. All right, straighten, let go of the foot, and then turn to the other side. So now we're standing on the right foot. You could place the right hand palm, maybe just a fingertip against the wall or chair or something. Catch the left foot and start here, tall spine, basic quad stretch, heel to butt. And most of us have done this pose hundreds, thousands of times before a run or a hike or a bike ride. It's just a good classic basic stretch to stretch out the knees and the quads. Stay here. Maybe go a little deeper. Begin to kick the foot back. You can bend the right knee more. Open the chest. Maybe you reach the right arm out in front of you. Work on your balance. This is also a balancing pose, so feel free to have that hand against the wall. One more breath. Slowly straighten. Release the foot. Give both legs a little shake out. And then stay standing, but come face the side of your mat. You're going to walk the feet wide. You're going to turn the toes out. You're going to bring the hands to the thighs, and you're going to bend the knees and come down into this wide leg squat, which we call goddess pose. Now the hands and the knees are thighs, and first we're just going to kind of sway a little side to side. So this just kind of invites a little movement, mobility into the outer hips and knees. One more breath. All right, now you're going to keep the right knee bent. You're going to straighten the left knee, and you're going to sink down a little more into a really deep side stretch, side lunge. Two more breaths. One more. All right, come back and change sides. Bend the left knee, straighten the right, sink down, stretching out outer hips, that hamstring. There it is again. Inner knee, inner thigh. One more breath. Come all the way up now. Straight legs. Turn the toes in. Bring the hands to the hips. Open the chest to the ceiling. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. From here, let's take our time. Begin to fold. Take your time, and I want you to pause about halfway down with a flat back so that the chest, the torso is parallel to the ground beneath you. From here, you're going to bring the hands to the mat. You can use blocks, and you're going to fold right down the middle. Drop the crown of the head down towards the ground. Maybe start to walk the feet a little wider if there's space. And we're going to spend about 3 more breaths here in this nice wide leg forward fold. So nice for flexibility in so many areas here. The hamstrings for sure, outer hips for sure, the back, especially the low back. Absolutely. One more breath. Slowly look forward. Begin to walk the feet in one at a time or together. You choose. Just kind of wiggle them, step them in until they're about hips distance. And one more time, just for a breath or two, fold right down the legs, back to that standing forward fold. One more breath. All right, from here, you're going to come find a seat. So come sit. Here is where have all the props, any props that you have with you nearby, because we'll have use of them all at one point or another. For this first one, though, don't need anything. Well, actually, that's not true. That is not true. I'm sorry. What we're going to do here is if you have a strap or belt, have that nearby, because that would come in super handy for this next pose. The other thing you do, if you have a blanket, like a stadium blanket, Afghan, or a really firm cushion, again, soft, fluffy pillows, don't do it for this. You need something firm underneath you for support to help lift you up a little bit. So what we're going to do, we just did a couple of different standing forward folds with the feet parallel and the legs wide. We're going to kind of mimic, repeat that, but from a seated position. If you have a strap or that belt, what you would do is loop it around the balls of both feet. Okay, and then you would hold on to one edge, one end with each hand, lift up tall, and then you would start to fold. And if you have the strap, you walk the hands in one hand at a time closer towards the feet, and that helps you kind of fold in. All right, if you don't have a strap or belt, you just keep the hands on the mat and you would still begin to lean forward. So whatever you're doing, whether you're using a strap or not, want to start that forward fold from the low back. So you want to lengthen the spine. So at no point do you want to start rounding here, tucking the chin to the chest. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking to expand the length in the spine, increase the stretch in the hamstrings. We're actually going to do this stretch a little bit different in a moment. But if you're using a strap, that again can really help you as long as you're subtle with it. You're not like jerking on the strap. You're not pulling yourself in, forcing yourself. It's nice to use it to just kind of ease in a little at a time, like an inch at a time. Take a couple breaths. Maybe there's like another ½ inch to go or not. One more breath. All right, lift up. You're using a strap. Place it to the side. You can still stay, if you're sitting on a blanket, you can stay there. So let's try this forward fold, excuse me, a different way. And this is really helpful to get into it if your hamstrings or low back are really tight, which again, those are two of the most problematic areas when we talk about flexibility or inflexibility. I want you to bend the knees so the backs of the knees lift and you're on the heels. You're going to wrap the arms around the thighs and you're going to kind of hug in, maybe scoot the heels in a little closer so that the thighs and the torso connect. And this could be where you stay. All right, if those areas are really tight, you just start here and you stay here. Otherwise, maybe wiggle the heels out like an inch or two. See how that feels. And then go another little bit and keep going, kind of keep easing into this. And then you kind of slide out and see, just go to where it feels good. And again, you don't want to round the spine here. You want to keep looking forward, lengthening the spine. You can release the arms out anytime, but that's an alternative to doing the seated forward fold. If you're starting at a point where you're super, super tight, start with the arms wrapped around the legs and ease into it a little bit that way. All right, one more breath. All right, walk yourself back up. All right, so now having a strap and a blanket and a block, really helpful for a couple poses coming up. So I'm going to turn to face forward so we have a better visual here. And we're going to start, so all you would really need, all that would be beneficial for this next pose is sitting on a blanket or cushion. You're going to step the feet in, bring the soles of the feet to touch, wrap the hands around the feet, press the elbows against the inner knees, and we're going to use that really gentle pressure to help the knees and hips to open and sit up tall here. So this is butterfly pose. So big hip opener, like that deep squat we did before. But this one also, again, gets a little more into the knees, especially inner knees, inner thighs, and groin. If you're able, kind of scoot the heels in a little bit closer towards the groin and sit up tall here. And keep using those elbows against the inner knees. So just real gentle press out. Take 3 more breaths here in butterfly. Another nice big hip opener, which again, one of the areas with the hamstrings and low back that are, for most of us, the tightest here. One more breath. All right, now you're going to open the legs out with straddle position. So try to go as wide as you can without having a lot of discomfort and without letting the hips. You really want to make sure both butt cheeks are really grounded here. So again, getting that blanket cushion under you, really, really helpful. Have a block nearby for the second part. All right, if you're using a strap, really good for this next part. Start on the right side. So if you're using the belt, wrap it around the ball of the right foot. And again, just you can hold both ends in one hand or one end in each hand. It doesn't really matter here. Keep both feet flexed. So toes point up, Kneecaps point up. No letting the knees roll inward. No internal rotation. Keep them neutral, facing up towards the sky. Turn slightly over the right leg. First, we want to lengthen through the spine. So we want that nice tall spine. That lift up out of the low back. So like we did in that seat before. Same thing, lifting up. Look at the right foot, and then you're going to start to fold over the right leg. And if you're using the strap, the advantage here, you can hold on, kind of pull the strap towards you a little and help you ease into this, but ease in is the word. You don't want to use a strap to jerk yourself in. You got to work into this. Let the body unravel, unfold, open up a little at a time. Let it be at its own pace. You can't rush this because if you do, you're going to pull a muscle in that hamstring, tear a muscle, break down those muscle fibers even more, damage the muscles and the low back there as well. Stay here one more breath on the side, and then slowly bring yourself up. If you're using the strap, remove it, turn to the left side. And again, if you're not using the strap, so I'll do this side without the strap, okay, or the belt or whatever, scarf, whatever you're using. So you would just simply have the hands on either side of that left thigh as you find length first, and then a little at a time, keeping the chest open, lengthening. You would walk out. You can just keep the hands on the mat, maybe hold on to the lower leg or the foot, and then start to lengthen here. And again, watch the right leg as well. Toes point up, knees point up. Don't let it. I could catch myself. It was starting to roll in. We want to avoid that. Take 2 more breaths here, folding over that left leg. Really nice for the hamstrings, of course, outer hips, low back. Bring yourself up. Now, if you have a block, have that like in front of you, high height. There's 2 different places where you could use this block. First, we're going to bring the hands behind the hips, kind of tent into the fingers. So first, we want to really lengthen the spine, kind of even lift the chest to the sky. And then begin to fold a little at a time. And again, if this already feels like enough, just this little lean, you're going to stay here. You want to keep the butt grounded. If the butt starts to hike up, pull back. That's as far as you go for now. Keep the toes pointing up, knees pointing up. Now, you could get the block. If you're folding deep enough, walk the hands out in front of you. You could bring the forehead to the block, or you could bring it in a little closer and place it under the chest. And use that to help you get a little deeper in. You could bring the hands to the inner arches of the feet to help you keep the knees pointing up. Take 1 more breath here. And then slowly walk yourself back up. Keep the block nearby. Might be helpful in the next pose. We're going to take a twist. I haven't done a ton of twists. Those are super important. Standing twist, seated twist, recline twist for spinal mobility and also keeping the chest and upper back open. For this particular twist, you're going to bend the right knee in like you're coming into a cross-leg position. So you can stay on your blanket. In fact, sitting on that folded blanket, really helpful. You're going to bend the left knee and step around that left foot outside the right knee. All right, so before we twist, take a moment here. Make sure both butt cheeks are grounded. All right, so if the left glute isn't coming to the mat, that's where you get that blanket under you, or you could sit on the right heel. Kind of hugging close, wrap both arms around that left thigh and press that left thigh to the chest. You're going to keep the right arm wrapped around the left knee and you're slowly going to turn the torso to the left. Bring the left hand behind you. Sit up tall. And we're going to be here about 4 breaths in the seated spinal twist. So getting a nice stretch here. Mostly the biggest goal of this pose, again, is to keep that mobility, flexibility in the spine, lifting up out of the low back. But you're also getting a nice stretch here, left outer hip and left glute as well. Take 1 more round of breath here, and then slowly turn back forward and change sides. So start with bending the left shin, like you're coming into a nice, easy cross-leg position. You can kind of pick up the right foot, step it outside the left knee, make sure both sit bones are supported on something. First, start hugging the right thigh in towards the chest, and then wrap the left arm around the knee or shin and turn, twist to your right. Right fingertips go behind you, and you kind of use the right fingertips or palm as a little prop, pressing into them to help you lengthen up through the back. 2 more breaths here. And if you feel tightness, resistance, a pull in the low back, then you kind of back out of that twist, decrease the intensity of that twist. 1 more breath. Come back forward, uncross the legs, move your block to the side for now. And if you're sitting on a blanket or a cushion, move that to the side. You shouldn't need that anymore for the last 2 things we're going to do. If you have a strap, though, you could use that again in the next pose or not. Not necessary to use a strap, but it would come in handy. We're going to lay fully on the right side here. All right, so come lay all the way on the right side. Stretch the right arm long by the ear, and we'll come into this side stretch. It's a stretch for the left leg as well. So we're going to come into this slowly, a little at a time. So let's pause here a moment, just enjoying this side stretch. Legs are long and stacked. All right, so here's where, again, and I'll do it on this side, but not on the second side. So you can see the difference if you use a strap or not. So you're going to float the left leg up, maybe bend the knee first. So if you're using your belt or strap, you can hook it around the ball of the foot. And then hold on with just the left hand, and then begin to straighten the leg up to the sky. So if you're not using the strap, which again, I'll do that on side 2, you would be holding on behind the thigh or the calf or the ankle, and the knee might be really bent. So again, this is a big stretch, again, for the hamstrings, but also the outer hip stretch as well. Just that whole leg, basically, that whole left leg is getting a nice stretch here. Keep pressing down through the right palm and form for some balance. And again, if you're using the strap, you can, kind of like we did on the back when we were laying flat on the back, it's the same kind of movement, bringing it in and out, back and forth. 1 more breath. All right, if you're using the strap, take it away. Slowly lower the leg down, stack it against the right. Pause there a moment, and then slowly push yourself up, bring yourself up, and come lay on your left side. Come lay on the left side. So again, I'm not going to use the strap on this side, just to kind of illustrate, show the difference between using the strap or not. Slide the left arm long by the ear. Rest the side of the head on the upper arm. And again, before we go any deeper, we're just going to take a couple breaths here. Just laying on the side, stretching, enjoying that stretch. Legs are long and stacked here. And then you're going to start to float the right leg up. And again, kind of see, you might want to bend the knee a lot or a little. And you may want to stay right here. Or you may begin to straighten the leg. Walk the hand up a little higher, higher still. Be careful here not to roll onto the belly or the back. It's easy to do. So that's why we ground through that bottom arm. Again, just a little rocking forward and back, wherever you're holding on. 1 more breath, slowly lower that leg down. And from here, come lay on your back and have your block handy if you have one. We're going to take 1 more back bend. And this is bridge pose, which we do almost every class. Start with feet hips distance. If you're going to want to use the block, have it within reach. Arms are by the side, ground the palms, ground the feet, and lift the hips up and find bridge pose up. Block, lower, medium height, pops under the low back. It just helps you lift a little higher, gives you more support. And if you want to stay in the pose longer, it can help you do that. It can help you take some of the pressure off the low back. So back bend, of course, really good in particular for kind of flushing out, decompressing the low back if it gets tight. but pretty much everything, almost every part of the body, if you think about it, we'll kind of go through a little checklist, is working here. The quads are definitely working. The knees are stretching. The hamstrings, the glutes, the outer hips. The chest is opening. The shoulders are stretching. This is just a really good overall over whole body pose here. Keep the knees pointing forward over the ankles, so not letting the knees splay open to the side. That's important here. 2 more breaths. You can come out early if you're not resting on a block or you just want to come out early, you can. Otherwise, holding this bridge, 1 more breath. And then slowly lower down, block to the side. We will definitely not need any more props for the rest of this practice. We have about 3 more kind of finishing poses to do here. Let's take another hip opener, a different one than the ones we've done, the butterfly or the figure 4. This one's a little bit deeper, but we've worked quite a bit on the hips in this class, so the hips should be ready for this. You're going to hug both knees to the chest to start, and you're going to cross the left knee over the right. You're going to flex the feet. So right away, before we go deeper, you're kind of separating the feet away from each other. Raise up high enough you can get a grip, ideally outer edges of feet. If you're straining, you can't quite get that, then you hold on to the ankles or the low shins. All right, when you have a hold of something, head and shoulders come back down to the mat. You ground the shoulder blades, lengthen the tailbone, press the low back into the mat, and very subtly, this is another isometric movement here. Begin to separate the feet a little away from each other, which very, very gradually, easily begins to create more space in the outer hips. This is reclined cow face pose. Oftentimes, most times in yoga class, this is done from a seat, which is a much more intense pose for most students, not just on the hips, but the knees as well. So I prefer to do it on the back because it's a little kinder for most people on those joints. And you can usually get a little better opening on the back. 1 more breath. All right, uncross the knees. Just briefly hug both knees into the chest. And then take the other side, cross right knee over left. Flex the feet right away. Lift up, get a grip of something. And then lower down when you have that grip. And then again, ground the back, lengthen the low back. Begin that real subtle, it's almost like a little real small, tiny tug of war with the feet, pulling them, not pulling, again, coaxing, easing them away from each other to very gradually open up space in the hips. This is a really good hip opener. If you go into it mindfully and don't expect big changes at once. 1 more breath. All right, uncross the knees. Hug both knees in again. This time, keep just the right knee hugged in and slide the left leg to straight. Let's go back to our reclined twist. Roll to the left. Press the shoulders into the mat and turn left side of the ribs to the right. Taking about 3 or 4 breaths here in this twist. So twists are really crucial to keeping the spine flexible, mobile, so the spine doesn't start to stiffen and atrophy. Also good for opening up space in the chest, helping us to breathe more deeply, and twists are also good for the digestive organs and for decreasing stress in the body. 1 more breath on this side. Roll onto the back, change sides, right leg straight, hug the left knee in, slowly twist, roll to your right side, ground the shoulder blades, begin to subtly, slowly turn over to your left. So again, another little caution here with the neck. When you're in twists, tendency, you'll hear a lot, turn, look over the left shoulder, but that's not for you. If you tend to, again, pinch nerves, pull muscles, tighten the neck, what you want to do is keep the neck more neutral and look up towards the ceiling. 1 more breath here. All right, roll onto the back. Last couple little things here. You're going to hug both knees into the chest, but then you're going to separate the knees and flex the feet. Take hold of the outer edges of the feet, and now we're in happy baby pose. It's another little hip opener pose, normally done beginning class, though ending too. You can rock a little side to side, or you can stay still, flat in the back, and begin to ease the knees down towards the shoulders. One more breath. All right. Last thing, slide the legs long. Legs are long. And you're going to sweep both arms over the head. So right now we're in this setting up for this nice full body stretch. First, reach out longer through the right arm and left foot. So flex the left foot, push out through the heel, stretch out a little longer through the right fingertip. So opposite arm and leg here. And then soften and take the other side. Reach long through the left fingers. Flex the right foot. Reach out long through the heel. Soften. Walk the knees together. Point the toes. Reach out long through all 10 fingers. Take a big breath in. Open the mouth. Exhale. Let's do 2 more of those. So we lengthen right and left side, front and back of the body, getting long, feeling all that flexibility, length. Open the mouth. Exhale. One more time. Lengthen. Big breath in. Inhale. Open the mouth. Let the breath go. That is going to conclude this class on flexibility. So again, maybe pick 3 or 4 things. There's a lot of stuff we worked on, a lot of hamstrings, a lot of hips, a lot of spinal mobility. Maybe pick 2, 3, 4 things that you liked, that are either areas you really need to work on. Be honest, if the hamstring's super tight, low back's really tight, maybe pick 2 or 3, 4 of the things we did today and try to, fold them in, incorporate them in to your daily, weekly fitness routine and work into them a little bit. Maybe some of the props that we worked with, the block, the strap in particular, that strap, really helpful when it comes to easing in to becoming more flexible. So important. Again, especially if you're still running quite a bit, you kind of constantly have that to and fro, because runners tend to be very inflexible, especially if you're running long distances. There's a lot of pounding going on. If you think about it, probably the most flexible runners are hurdlers. Because they're not running as long of a distance, but you need to have an incredible amount of flexibility to get over, especially those high hurdles. So marathon runners, probably ultra runners, least flexible, hurdlers, most flexible. So again, you need to have that counterbalance there and really take some time to stretch and improve and encourage that flexibility. All right, hopefully this class was helpful. As always, reach out, email me with any questions. Hope you enjoyed, hope it's helpful, and hope to see you at another class soon. Thanks for joining me. Bye.